Hey everyone, welcome to the Redmen TV. I'm Steve Hoare. This is the Uncensored match build-up ahead of the big game this weekend. Liverpool versus Manchester United, Sunday, 4:30. I'm going to say 4:30 at Anfield. To discuss everything about it, I'm joined by John Reid and by Lewis Asmal. Happy New Year, gents. Thanks for coming in. It's a big game to talk about. We've just been speaking off air though, John, and we'll go into the ins and outs and we'll have an in-depth look at Man United and Liverpool and all that in a couple of moments. You just said off air though, this feels like the biggest gulf between the two teams, especially in terms of us being so much ahead of them. There's been actually times where Liverpool have been at real low points and Man United have been flying, but it's been a long time really since it felt like the chasm between these two teams has been this wide.
Yeah, it's such a weird game to play season because it's still like obviously the game you look for in the fixture list, like this and Everton kind of thing, and we haven't had any of them obviously with the derby being sort of rained off and that, like, so it feels like it should have that sort of big match sort of thing around it. But like you said, even just thinking about the game, like, you know, you sort of looking at the fixture list, it's been like a weirdly light festive period as well, hasn't it, for us in terms of football. So you sort of like spacing the games out. I was looking at it and seeing it and thought, oh yeah, like the next game's United, and it's like I can't think of a game in my lifetime. I'm having a bit of a chat upstairs as well before where I'm like, It's not even like anything sort of like we've had games with them in recent memory where they've not been good and we've been quite good, but there's still been a little bit of needle in it, and you still feel as if it's a bit like, you know, it could be a bit of a contest and we'll probably win, but like this is the first one in a long time where I think where like they just don't look like a team, you know, that first 30 minutes against Newcastle, I managed to catch actually weirdly, but like there's just like no semblance of a team there. They don't seem to have any ideas, and I know that's obviously because it's still early doors for Amorim in terms of putting his ideas and stuff in, but when you compare that to how we've been in terms of the manager taking over seamlessly and, you know, just how fluent we've looked, I think like probably since like the Madrid game we've just looked increasingly in every game like that period where we're great is extending further and further. It's just so hard to sort of, as you say, sort of put all that into some kind of context.
It's weird, and Lucas, like I say, if we look at them, I mean, to say they're a shambles at the moment is being kind, I think, all on off the pitch. They've got tons going on, new owners, Ineos, and every time you hear a story about Man United, from, you know, the leaking the roof at the press conference to taking the steward's bonus off them to stop doing donations to charity,
nice in the food,
the food, like the hygiene rating on the pitch, the players just don't look up to it. This new manager's walked in, and I said he's like walked into that meme with the guy with the pizzas, and he walks in and like everything's on fire. That's what Ruben Amorim's walked into. Like, the club, Man United, this is what happens over, you know. Paul uses the phrase quite often, the crappening. You don't notice things are getting worse and worse and worse and worse until one day you're like, oh my God. Yeah. You look at your team, you look at your stadium, you look at like what's going on. Like Man United, this is as bad as it's been for them for, I can't even remember it being this bad, both on and off the pitch, really.
Yeah. I mean, this was something like it's the worst league start, or the worst the manager started since like the 50s or earlier than that, something ridiculous. Like it's a shambles at the minute. It's an absolute mess, and they've done it to themselves because every single time they've gone into it searching for a new manager, they've had no idea of what they want. They've had no identity. Get Van Gaal, he'll make us more defensively sound, or get Mourinho, who's got winning experience, spend loads of money on each of these managers. And now they're in this position where they've got this hodgepodge of players, none of whom can fit the system, and they can't get rid of them because they're on high contracts.
It's Frankenstein squad, I say. They've got, you know, like Mourinho bought in, but Ten Hag bought those lot in, but then he's like his player, and he's from the academy, and he, like, Ruben Amorim's walked into like 4 different managers' teams, and it's just a mess.
No, it's not. You know, it's absolutely right, and it's not his fault. He's come into this, but he knew what he was getting into to an extent. Maybe not to the level it is, but I said a thing the other day that I think this is personally, it might sound a bit daft, the best start he could have had. Because I think if he goes in there and has like Ten Hag's first season where he wins a cup and finishes third, everyone goes, oh yeah, absolutely fine, no issue here whatsoever, spend more money. If he goes in and it's a shit show to begin with, you can see where he needs improvement. You can see the areas of the pitch that he needs to invest in. So this is probably the best way he could have began his Man United tenure.
It's weird, isn't it? Because like there's a thing, and let's talk about him then before we talk about the players and stuff. Then, John, it's interesting. Like he plays the 3-4-3. One of the reasons reportedly Liverpool decided like not to pursue Ruben Amorim was he's very steadfast in that, and that's fine. That's his way. That's what he does. I actually think it's very rare for a manager to be so bedded into a formation. I understand managers being bedded into philosophy, like you press or you pass or you do this or you do that. But if you look at the best managers in recent years, and you know, in England it's been Guardiola and it's been Klopp. Mostly 4-3-3 for both of them, but actually subtle changes within that. Sometimes it was a 1 and a 2, sometimes it was a 2 and a 1, different type of striker depending on different games. But the philosophies tended to be the same. With Amorim, actually, it feels part of his philosophy is this: we play 3-4-3, but you look at Man United's squad, and actually I'm not sure that suits any of them. Maybe Harry Maguire, because he likes being in the middle of a back three. I think that's where he's at his best. Other than that, you look throughout that squad and you think, well, he doesn't suit being a wing back. He doesn't really suit being a midfielder in a 2. He doesn't suit being a centre forward. It feels like he's so bedded into this formation, he's not going to change. He's admitted that, which is prerogative. But it is quite strange that it's more about kind of the formation than what's his philosophy. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, it's a strange one because I think, you know, obviously we haven't got any context, and in the fullness of time we might get it, but you sort of wonder what the job interview was, like from both sides, in terms of like what the club sort of gave him as a proposition and sort of what he gave back to them to say is what I can do. Because, you know, I agree with Lewis that, like, you know, in the sense that like going as bad as it can go is probably a good thing in terms of, you know, setting expectations, but also at the same time, I don't know from the outside looking in what he looked at that squad, if he's so wedded to a 3-4-3 and gone, I can make this work. You can argue maybe he looked at some of the lads, they've got a full back and gone, I can probably get a tune out of them at wing back, but it's such a specialised position, and I think maybe the shock for him as well a little bit has been like sort of how thick and fast games come in terms of the league and the competition. I think the weird thing actually is if you sort of take Liverpool out of the league this season, the rest of the league actually has been quite competitive in terms of points and stuff. But yeah, like it's weird that he sort of, you know, hasn't compromised. But I guess, again, if you're trying to embed the philosophy, you can't kind of come in on day one and say, here's what we're doing, and then 2 or 3 weeks later be like, right, we're scrapping all that because clearly it doesn't work. And that's, you know, that United squad, I think, have probably been guilty of that for too long, in terms of like, well, if we just sit here long enough, they'll sack the manager, or something will have to give and we sort of get our way. So I suppose it's good in a sense that he sort of got a grip of them, maybe, but I just feel like I feel for him, to be honest, in some ways, because you see in press conferences where he's getting all kinds of mad questions, which are all perfectly reasonable, I think, you know, particularly around some of the situations with the players and that. But I sort of feel like it's not him who should be answering them, because he's like, I've only been here like 6 weeks.
Can I pose a counter argument so you feel sorry for him? Fuck him, he's the Man United manager. can I just put that on record? Like, I hope you fail, and I hope you continue to fail, all of them. But yeah, I see your point. Like, he's walked into a shit show. It's interesting, Lucas, to kind of go back to what Man United are doing here. They're paying the price for not sacking Erik ten Hag in the summer, because they didn't sack him after they were going to sack him. He won the cup. Congratulations! Like, do not sniff at winning the FA Cup. It's a major honour. Congratulations, beating Manchester City. You should never, you know, underestimate winning trophies. That's what we're here for. But then they allowed him to spend more money in the summer. So he brings in Ugarte, he brings in Xerxes, he brings in De Ligt,
Lenny Yoro.
So he's brought these players in, and 4 months later he's gone. This is what happens to bad football clubs. If they didn't think Erik ten Hag was good enough before he won the FA Cup final, he wasn't good enough. Yeah. If Ruben Amorim is like what John says, he needed time to embed the philosophy, embed training, get involved, be there from pre-season. This is what happens when you change managers. He's walked into English football at this time where there's a game every week. They're playing Europa League, they're playing cups, you know, they're doing all kinds. This actually is the first time maybe he's had a little bit of training time between games. It feels like Man United are paying the price for half bottle and that Ten Hag decision in the summer.
Yeah, they should have done it either shit or get off the pot. Just do one or the other. You can't just string it along and think, yeah, just throw money at the problem, because it doesn't work. Money isn't going to fix every issue. They should have learned that from the past few years of doing it. And it confused me because people were saying, well, you know, he won the FA Cup, that's why he kept the job. He sacked Van Gaal after he won the FA Cup. Yeah. It shouldn't guarantee you a job winning a trophy. We've seen worse managers win those cups and still get sacked. And I remember when Jamie Carragher made the same point years ago about when we sacked Brendan Rodgers, and he said then, well, why have you kept him until October, given him 100 million to spend when he's brought in Benteke and all these other players, and then you sack him? It doesn't make any sense. And United, for the past decade, have had no plan. There's been no organisation, and to be honest, they're fully deserving of what's happened of it, because it's just proof that the ownership doesn't care, the players on the pitch can't seem to adapt, and at times don't want to adapt, and there's no vision or plan, unlike us, who we've signed a manager who fits the philosophy, who plays the same sort of style. Everything's calculated and approached. Maybe we want to spend a bit more money at points, But United are spending money left, right and centre, and it's getting you nowhere. If anything, you're going further backwards.
Yeah, they're really struggling. Let's look towards the game itself then, John, at the weekend. In terms of injury news from Man United, no Mason Mount, no Lindelof, no Shaw. I'm guessing of those, Shaw's the one who would definitely be playing. You think they would like to use him as a left wing back? He's been unavailable for quite a long time now. They get Fernandes and Ugarte back from suspension, which they desperately need. I don't think any Man United fan ever wants to see a Casemiro Eriksen double pivot in their lives. I would have quite liked them to do that against Liverpool. They're not. So Fernandes, Ugarte, Mainoo's probably the midfield they're going to pick at the weekend. Elsewhere, he's got big decisions to make. His issue at fullback at the moment is he's either got wingers or fullbacks. He hasn't got wing backs. So it's either Mazraoui and Delo, who are okay defensively, struggle attacking, especially Delo on the wrong side effectively. Maybe someone like an Ahmad can go and play, or Anthony's played a bit of right wing back, which again, you might get a lot going forward. You're getting nothing really in terms of defence. It feels like if I was a Man United fan, and thank God I'm not at this moment in time, or ever actually, the first thing they need to do is go and sign these wing backs because you haven't got any. That is the key for this game really. You'll see what Amarin's up to by if he goes to the defenders. Does he play an Ahmad? Does he risk an Ahmad or an Anthony? Or actually is he going to stick with the Mazraoui, the low thing, which hasn't really paid any dividends for them so far?
Yeah, I think, the temptation, isn't it, I think would be to sort of go defensive and just think we cover up for this game and sort of, just giving, again, all sorts of context going into it in terms of where we are in the league and that. But if I was him, I think I would probably just try and pick the best players. Like the lads who have sort of dug me out and who are in form. I mean,
who's that?
Ahmad, probably
Him.
Ahmad.
That's about it. and that's it. But it's like, I suppose he's got the luxury, sort of the way the league is now with 5 subs and that he can sort of rotate through players as well. I thought it was interesting that, again, as sort of as bad, if I can give them sort of a crumb of comfort, which I don't want to, but as bad as they were in the first half an hour against Newcastle, he did make changes and that did sort of shore them up a bit. I mean, Newcastle also did take the foot off the gas, I think, but he was able to sort of make a few changes and sort of at least get the game back under control, even if they weren't actually attacking. So it's a difficult one, I think, but like I if I was him, I would just sort of pick the players who have served me the best in that sense. And I think even though the sort of opposed attack versus defence, I think like Ahmad and I think Dalot are probably the best 2 options he's got available to him. And I think all you can try and do again is just sort of put lads in midfield like Ugarte and just sort of try and cover up and just, I think, well, I've got legs. We might not be able to do anything, but at least I can get people around the pitch and mobile, because there was times where, classically under Ten Hag, but against Newcastle as well with that double pivot where they can't run. They just haven't got a midfield. And
the defenders can't run either. Lenny Yoro can run, the other 2 can't run. So they have got a serious legs problem. He used Diallo more attacking wise against Newcastle, Lou, and like I say, needs must. It's worth mentioning. Like he could have picked Mainoo, he should have picked Mainoo, but he did have suspensions to both Ugarte and to Fernandes. Ahmad's been there one shining light. He reminds me, when you're really, really struggling. Yeah. And you just need something to pin your hopes on at the moment for them. It's Diallo, and he's been good. He scored big goals. He scores. Anyone who scores winning goals against Liverpool and Manchester City in the space of a few months is going to be really high thought of Man United. He's been the shining star. It's whether you knock him back onto wing back and then try and get a bit more stable in midfield. You play him further forward up the pitch. He's the one Man United player at this moment in time. As a Liverpool fan, you're thinking he's probably the one that worries you the most. Garnacho and Rashford have pace, but they seem to have been knocked to the sidelines at the moment by Amorim for whatever reason. It feels like Diallo's the main threat going into this one.
Yeah, and Diallo, to be fair to him, he was class at Sunderland, he's class now. Like, he can drag them out of those horrible situations. I can't see the rationale of Amorim playing him as that wing back. I can't understand why he's not just thinking play him further forward and have someone behind him. I know he's sticking to this formation, I know he's sticking to his system, but Amad Diallo is better when he's running at people, when he's got the ball at feet, not when he's having to track back and defend.
He feels like a winger in a 4-3-3, doesn't he? And they just don't play that. Yeah,
exactly. And I feel sorry for him because there's real talent there. That City game was absolutely class. He looked good against Tottenham at points as well, even in the loss they suffered. So he is probably the main danger man. I think Xerxes as well. I understand Xerxes is terrible. I know he's slow, he's bad on the ball, but he's a threat in the air. Like, he can cause problems, and if he's trying to knock balls down into the path of Diallo or maybe Garnacho, if he does get game time, there is a danger there because we can struggle at points with those tall, powerful strikers.
I suppose that's the other question is, and we mentioned this before, John, you had the stat. I know you with They haven't scored a goal in the last 3 league games. Xerxes gets booed / cheered off by their own fans, which, you know, for a new sign, and that's tough. Like that you don't see that from anyone really. Not many teams boo their own players or cheer them off. Like very few and far between does that happen. It hasn't quite yet worked for Højlund either. It's been like there's clearly signs of promise with Højlund, but not much in terms of goals for them. That's the thing. That's if you're Man United again, we'll talk about the defensive side, which we have Liverpool's attackers, but they're really struggling to get a goal. Like it's hard to find. To beat Liverpool, you're probably going to have to score twice because Liverpool will score. If you want to win the game, it's really difficult at the moment in time from Man United to see, unless Fernandes does something magic, which he can, or Diallo gets one on the counter-attack, they just don't look like they've got goals in the team.
No, they just... There's no coherence to them in any sense in terms of attacking, and it's like, as you say, there's sort of maybe short of Diallo, and there was like a brief spell where maybe Garnacho sort of earlier in the season looked like he might be that sort of one thing you can go, he's the guy, like if you get the ball to him, we can maybe do something, but that's sort of fizzled out. There's no one you can really sort of look at that team and go, like, they're the threat. I guess just I'll come back around to their team, but it seems to flip into us for a second. You know, if you were looking at our team in terms of fitness and maybe concerns, you might go, well, maybe starting Quansah at centre half might be a bit of a concern. But then you're looking at sort of their players who will play up against them and sort of go, and actually, you know, there's no real big lad who's going to give him a sort of a physical challenge, and he's got Van Dijk next to him even if there was. And he's good for pace, so it's not a particularly thing about people going in behind him. So it's hard for them to, I think, to sort of see where that comes from. And we mentioned stats, like say, like we're 21 in the last 6, they're 21 goals for the whole season. It's like there's no real... There's nothing there, like you say, and even like the set play thing. I mean, forever sort of brush, I guess you want to sort of tar Arsenal with. Like at least they've got a strategy in the sense that if you don't do something in a game, you know, we've got 3 lads who are really good at taking set pieces. United just don't have any of that. There's no one player you can look at and go, like, if they get it to him, he's the danger man. And Fernandes might be him, just in terms of he's sort of carried that burden for a couple of seasons now as captain, but beyond that.
He's the one who can pull something out of his arse, basically, can't he? He has got that bit of quality about him, even though I wouldn't want him as my captain. I'm just going to bring up, if you don't mind, Aaron, please, mate, this team, because obviously without injuries, there's too many injuries and suspensions, the players who are going to be available again. This is a team that Wolves beat, and I understand Fernandes got sent off and they went down to 10, but I think this is what Amorim thinks is his best team at the moment. It's an Arnold in goal, it's a back three of Martinez, Maguire and Yoro. His wing backs then at the low and Mazraoui. He's got Mainu, Ugarte, Fernandes, Diallo and Højlund as like the 2-3. It feels like that is what he thinks his best team is, Lewis. And I wouldn't be shocked if that's what he picks at the weekend. Like say, he might drop Diallo back into one of those wing back roles in place of Delo and maybe bring in another midfielder or whatever. Maybe a Casemiro or something, I don't know. But there's nothing there that terrifies you. You know, in the past I've sat here playing Man United games and gone, well, they've got, you know, and you can just list off the quality they've got. Even up to like Solskjaer times when you were like, well, there's a bit of Lukaku, there was, even though he didn't really do much at times against those, like Marcus Rashford,
Sancho.
They've both had it. That team, again, you don't want to be complacent, and we'll talk about that in a moment as well, but there's nothing there that terrifies you. There's nothing there that's keeping you up at night if you're Liverpool, if you're Arne Slot.
No, this is the worst Man United team, arguably Premier League era. Like, it's just that there's no one in that team you look at. I think Rashford's probably the only player in the whole squad that you'd look at and think he can maybe make something happen. Maybe Fernandes. There's just nothing there. There's no attacking threat. I think down on XG, they're down on shots, they're down on goals. And maybe it's Amorim's being stubborn by the way he wants them to play, and he's willing to sacrifice goals in order to get his philosophy across. But that team there's no one you look at and think, you're going to cause us issues. And there was something I saw, I think it was on Sky, and I might be completely wrong with it, but it was when Dalot and Mazraoui start as the wing backs, they're not scoring any goals. And when Anthony and Ahmad play, they've scored 9 or something team goals. So he can't show too much pride and think, you know, it's Liverpool, Man United, we can't sit back, we're not meant to. No, if he needs to sit back. Otherwise, if he plays Diallo, if he plays Anthony as his wing backs or anything like that, they're just going to get peppered. Absolutely,
yeah. They're in a real bad moment. I suppose if you're a United fan again, John, and you're looking for like crumbs of hope or whatever, I suppose you're thinking is, he has had a bit of time off now. When you're looking at the dates of his fixtures since he first arrived, it's been very few and far between in terms of getting themselves, you know, I'm trying to think when his first game was. It was
Ipswich.
Ipswich, was it? Which was back, where was that? So was it 1-1 Ipswich? Is that right? Yeah. since then make games every 3, 4, 5 days, whatever. He's now, since I'm scrolling down, they got beat on Monday night by Newcastle. He's got till Sunday. It's been now, Ruben Amorim's had a full week where he can at least do something. Like, he must be doing so. He's clearly a good coach. Everyone recognises he must be, the way he had his sporting team playing, he's clearly got something about him. That's the only thing, I suppose, from a comfort, maybe a little concern is, have they done something in the 6 days that he's had, or 5 days that he's had, that can start to fix and mend some of these problems they got, or are they just that bad that you're almost papering over cracks? That's the question, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to have the courage, I think, to stand by his convictions in terms of, like, whatever happens at the weekend, in terms of, if something somehow, if they somehow pull something out of it, whether it's a draw or a win, somehow, that it's a crumb of comfort, as you say, in terms of, like, expectations. But even if they get walloped, he's got to have the sort of thing about him to be a bit like, I've got to ignore all that and just sort of press on with what I'm trying to implement. I mean, again, like, without wanting to go too far back in history in terms of, Klopp taking over, it felt like that first season we had him, there was like signs, like against Spurs when he first comes in, and then we had a couple of games where we weren't all that, and then it was sort of up and down. And I think any team who's sort of gone through that transition within the league knows that that's a process that you can't just sort of coach it 1 week and it takes effect straight away. So I think if I was a United fan, I'd almost be looking at this game and going, the results are relevant. Even if they get walloped. I've seen a lot of mad score lines, in sort of predictions from pundits over the last few days. I'd ignore all them and just sort of be like, we've got to go out and sort of see that there's something there in terms of, as you say, coaching the philosophy in terms of going, right, these are me lads, here's what we've worked on, and try and do something that, like, gets some idea of fluency across, because I think that's the biggest red flag for me, as you say, even though his knowledge has been a good coach, the biggest red flag for me would be that, like, I still haven't seen the idea yet. I haven't actually seen on the pitch yet, like, 5 minutes where they've looked like a coherent team.
Yeah, absolutely. And long may that continue, by the way. We will be speaking after the break then about Liverpool team news, what Arne Slot should do in terms of who should play, who shouldn't play, all that kind of stuff. Maybe a little chat about Trent Alexander-Arnold as well and where his head's at. Yeah, we'll be back with that. But before we go to the break, trivia question for you both. I reckon you're both going to get this one. I don't reckon it's the most difficult one. I reckon you guys watching along in the YouTube chat, you can play as well. Who was the last Man United player to score against Liverpool at Anfield? That is the question. We'll be back with the answer to that and a chat about the Reds after this quick break. See you in a minute or two.
Hello over there, just wanted to tell you what you could win if you were in our Club Legend prize draw for January. This is a biggie. We're starting the new year off with a bang. It's this. A signed Liverpool shirt signed by Ian Callaghan, proper Liverpool royalty, the record appearance maker for the Reds, 857 appearances he made. Not all in this shirt, you'll be glad to know, but if you want to get yourself a chance of winning this, head to redmenplus.com, sign up as a Club Legend or upgrade your existing subscription and you might just be the lucky winner.
Yeah, get yourselves involved, become a Redmen Plus Legend subscriber, get loads of extra content, bonus features, access to the Discord, discounted merch, free merch, but also, get yourselves involved in those monthly competitions. We give away a signed Kenny Dalglish shirt on Boxing Day at the end of January. We're giving away a shirt signed by Ian Callaghan. Nobody has played more games for Liverpool than Cally, so I mean, they're just ridiculous prizes, by the way. Like two icons of Liverpool, and there's more to come at the end of each and every month. Signed merchandise, get yourselves involved. Before the break, I asked you who the last Man United player to score a goal against Liverpool at Anfield. You guys are stumped, I think. Any guesses?
It just shows how long it's been, to be honest.
Yeah.
The only one I can think, I've got two in my mind, but the one I'm going to go is Fernandes.
Okay.
I'm just going to say Rashford.
No, it was Jesse Lingard in 2018.
Jesus.
Oh, God, the Mourinho game.
It was Mourinho got sacked. It was
the 3-1, wasn't it?
Shaqiri scored twice. Yeah. So Dom got it in the chat. Dom, Paul... Mr. Moses got it as well. Luke went for Juan Mata. He was a bit before that.
Has it been that long?
2018 is the last time they scored a goal at Anfield. They've had good results in terms of, for them, a couple of draws in there, a couple of 0-0s, and they've been handily beaten a few times, including obviously the 7-0 as well. They've actually scored goals at Old Trafford quite frequently against them.
Was the FA Cup game a couple of seasons ago, the 3-2 loss? Was that Old Trafford? Was that Old Trafford?
Yeah, and then they obviously had the FA Cup last year with... But they've scored goals at Old Trafford. They've just really struggled to score goals at Anfield. We had a comment here, and this is where I'm going to start before we even look at like injuries and team news and all that kind of stuff. I'll see if I can bring it up right now. And I thought it was a good point, and it was from Paolo, who says it's important the players don't become complacent. As last season, multiple times in this fixture, that seemed to be the case. Liverpool beat themselves last year. Like Liverpool struggled against Man United last year, no doubt about it. You know, they did. They got beat in the FA Cup. They drew twice in the league games. They were the better side in all three of those games and couldn't beat them. And it did feel, especially in the league game and maybe in the cup game, John, Liverpool were that good and don't batter them. They kind of took the foot off the gas, and you know, before you know it, there's a mistake. You know, Kwanzaa gives one away, or you know, Kobe Mainoo in the league game scores a world. You're like, how's this happening? Liverpool need to be ruthless, and even if it's 2-0, make it 3, make it 4, because they've fallen victim to it 3 times against United last year.
Yeah, they've got a. This squad's been really good, I think, under the current manager at sort of altering the mindset. You know, there was a lot of times, I think, last season where when games got away from them, their heads went a bit. Whether that's a criticism you level at all, or you can level it at the manager, I don't know. But the point is that I think under the current manager, they've got a lot better at that. They're clearly pacing themselves through matches and managing things, and he's keeping them on task. He's doing the thinking for them and sort of going, look, you need to go and take care of this problem over here, and sort of tweaking it at half time. So it was interesting. I caught a bit of his pressure, but not all of it. But that he made the point of sort of saying, and I know we sort of done this around other teams as well. You know, Spurs sort of quite funnily, but he made the point of saying, you know, United are probably better than their league position suggests, which I think.
Well, they are 14th.
They are 14th, but to my mind, that sort of says to me that he's looked at the fixture list and gone, right, I'm not going to make any changes. I'll make changes in sort of the cup games, and we'll go from there.
That was the first question, or you might not have caught in the press. Sorry to interrupt, John. Someone said to me, you know, Man United, are you going to rest? It was half tongue in cheek. Are you going to rest players because of how bad Man United are? And he batted it back. He was like, no. in very Dutch fashion, he was like, no, play for strongest team. So you are right, he's not taking this for granted, and I think the ruthlessness is what he'll be looking for as well.
Yeah, and that's how you ensure that. I think though, like you get the lads who've been doing the business on the pitch for you, and you go like, all right, you know, as you say, back 3, or you know, it'll probably end up being more like a back 5, but Diaz, all right, go ahead, lads, have some fun. You know, Salah, you know, he seems to be coming on even stronger later in games, doesn't he? And sort of waiting for his moment, and then Gakpo as well. You know, he's a threat from outside the box. So, you know, I think there's some other questions around sort of like other, you know, I'm sure we'll come on to that in terms of like the team selection and stuff, but I just think you pick the best lads and just say, look, you've been doing it for me, just sort of go and do it again. And I think, again, sort of the fact that it's at Anfield will make a big difference in the sense that it's the late kick-off, it's a Sunday. I don't think anyone who's going into that ground at either end of the pitch is under any illusions as to where we are and where they are. So you just sort of go and do the business.
Absolutely. Let's talk team news. SBR with the super chat. Let's talk to him very quickly. We're not going to do too much on the Madrid stuff. We've got a transfer show coming out later that we'll do more on. Chris and Chloe did 40 odd minutes on it yesterday, so I don't have to rehash it too much. SBR says if Trent doesn't sign, bench him and play Conor Bradley, is the comment that we got earlier today on the super chat. To be fair, the manager has already said Trent's playing tomorrow. That's the one thing he did say. He was asked about it, and he straight batted it all away, Lewis. He said Trent's going to play. Is there any worry that his head's up his arse, or are you all right with it?
Not at all. Look, this isn't something that's new. This isn't something that's happened since the Real Madrid approach. Yeah. We've known this for about a year, and so 6 months. So's he. Yeah. And there are people saying, like, drop him, sell him, drop him to the under-18s. He's still producing world-class numbers and world-class moments. If he's doing that while all this is going on, dropping him or selling him for 12 million is not worth the effect that could have on a title-winning team. It's just... keep him in there, because what he's doing no one else in the world can do, so I've got no worry about him whatsoever.
Absolutely. The positive news, obviously, from the press conference as well, John, you talked about before. Well, negative is Joe Gomez is out for a few weeks. We all kind of knew that when he hobbled off against West Ham. The good news is Ibu Konate and Conor Bradley both trained today, and Arne Slot said they should be available for Sunday if needed or whatever, and we'll see how they go. 2 sessions they've got Friday, Saturday sessions to see how they are. Obviously Saturday won't be as intense, I would guess, match day -1, but do you throw Konate straight back in, or do you give Kwanzaa a go? That is the question he's got. A lot of this will determine how fit Ibu is, of course, but if he can do an hour, you're playing for an hour, and then sub him off and bring Kwanzaa on, because Ibu's been the second best defender, I say, as good as Gomez has been. I think Ibu's fantastic. Van Dijk's been on another level, or close to, but Ibu hasn't been that far off. Kwanzaa has struggled, not make no bones about it. He had a really good start last season, kind of faded towards the end. The manager clearly has, put him in spots this year, and he has had issues, and you can't make no bones about that. would you be tempted to go Ibu, give me an hour if you can do an hour?
I think so. I think because he's going to rotate through the squad anyway, and I think you need to sort of get him. You need to sort of get him a game at the level that he needs, if you like. You know, so no disrespect to him, like, you know, Hackinson and that in terms of the level, but like a cup game slightly different to a Premier League match. So I think you need to get him as many minutes as you can, sort of back where he was, just to give him a sense of normality in terms of like, and then we can also sort of stress test him a bit to sort of know where he's at. He's got the option there at Kwanzaa, as you say. You know, in an ideal world, you would want it that he sort of does 60 and we're comfortable in the game, and then you can go, right, well, we'll take him off and we'll concert on for a bit, and it just sort of covers him. We don't know, I guess, in terms of his fitness. If he's trained, you'd imagine he's fully fit, but it might be that it's the other way around, and Kwanzaa does 60, 70, and then he brings him on for the last sort of 20. And
it's worth mentioning on Kwanzaa, actually, I thought he was good against West Ham, Lou. Like, he played well when he came on. Like, he had a couple of iffy moments so far this season, a bit up and down, but he's had good games as well. And he had Van Dijk next to him, which he always hasn't had in other games when he's played. Like, because Man United are lacking a little bit in terms of attacking numbers, maybe the manager thinks, I can give you 2 weeks here. Yeah. I can give him Man United off, and I can give him Accrington off, and maybe, you know,
we've got Tottenham,
but again, whatever, you don't have to play him in that if you don't want to. Maybe he saves him for Spurs. It is an interesting one, because my thing with Slot is I think he'll want Konate back in as soon as possible. We won't know, of course. And again, it was an impact injury, so you there shouldn't in theory be like any too much damage or like reoccurrence or whatever, or risk of that. Whereas someone like Bradley who had a muscle injury, that's something you've got to manage carefully. If Ibu's just fit, it might just be, listen, you're playing big fella.
Yeah, he doesn't have to play the full 90, and you want to try and get to that situation where you are a few goals ahead. And we saw against West Ham where we battered them, and then we just slowed right down towards the end because we were like, well, what's the point in exerting energy? Get Ibu on, get him the minutes. Like you said perfectly, he needs to be up to that level. Get your convincing lead, and then you can bring Kwanzaa on, because, like I said, United have got hardly any attacking threat. So Kwanzaa coming on when we're a couple nil up, fingers crossed, it's a perfect scenario for him.
Yeah, makes sense. Who plays left back for you?
I think he'll probably start Robertson. I wouldn't be averse to him obviously starting Tsimikas, given sort of what's gone on around Robbo, and I think that's a whole conversation to unpick that we probably haven't got time for here, but I think he'll just sort of go with it, given potentially that there might be other changes in the defence. I think he'll just go with the safe pair of hands, if you like.
See, I think he might go Costas, and I think he might play Robbo in midweek against Spurs, and I think he might play Costas again against Accrington. But I think either way, you'll be fine. I suppose that this is the Ahmad situation, because he is their threat. You know, Robbo actually, I thought it was pretty good against West Ham in the end. You know, he had a good game, but he's had these ups and downs before. It's a interesting conversation. It is at least a conversation, Lou.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think they're going to identify that as a side of the pitch where there's something to get joy from if you've got Diallo there. And Robertson has struggled against quick, tricky wingers, but at the same time, you need those people who've been there, done it, got the t-shirt against Man United. You need those characters in the back line who are going to coordinate everything. I agree with you. I think he will start Tsimikas, but I can see a world where Robertson could start just purely based on that kind of aspect of things.
I think he might go Costas, because Man United can't defend corners.
Yeah.
And I think Costas is the best corner taker. And we saw the other day, they've started doing little set pieces, and they had the Arsenal-esque back posty thing, and it kept hitting the first man, and it pissed everyone off. I think Costas is the best corner taker at the club, and I think that's definitely a reason maybe to play him, because Man United will probably give you a goal. Would you be shocked if Trent scored from a corner? Like, he's definitely going to try it. He's definitely going to try it against these at one point, because given how poor they've been. So I think I will go Tsimikas just for the set piece delivery. I think in terms of defensive output, it's fine. It's pretty similar. I think Costas is their ball situation, and Man United's actually really poor at them, and Liverpool haven't been great at them. I think I will go Costas. Midfield, it's interesting here, because Gravenberch's going to play, we know that. McAllister's going to play. Szoboszlai's had a week off, but Jones has been good. I think it just screams as a Szoboszlai game, John. Like, a team who can't run, put on your best runner and your most energetic player. Szoboszlai ran rings around them at Old Trafford, and there's every chance he could do it again here.
Yeah, so obviously when I was mentioning some of the attacking positions before, he was sort of who I had in my head in terms of some of the midfield. You know, there's times in the last few games where he keeps popping up at number 9 almost, and whoever's up front, whether it's been Diaz more recently, but at times it's been sort of Gakpo and that as well, vacating that space. He sort of popped up at 9. I just think, as you say, like those runs from midfield, when we've got the ball and we're sort of intact, and we're in the attacking phase, playing this almost sort of 4-2-4. He's the lad who's sort of like taking up those spaces essentially and is going to sort of go forward. And
he leads the press, doesn't he?
He leads the press really well, but also like he's big and he's powerful and he's everything that Man United team at the minute don't want to cope with in terms of, he's pretty tidy on the ball, but he's good in behind, and he's happy to sort of take things in tight spaces and stuff. So he's just got everything, I think, in terms of the bag of tricks that you would need. And as you say, Jones, no mark against him. He's having a brilliant season, and he's full of energy and stuff. So he's always a good option, I guess, if you want to freshen it up from off the bench.
Yeah, I think it's got to be Szoboszlai. Salah plays, obviously, the best player in the world. This is where the manager got decisions to make, because Liverpool have looked at their best, Lou, with Diaz up front and Gakpo on the wing. He has got Jota, he's got Núñez as well, of course. There, do you think it's just Luis Diaz goes up front again?
That's what I'd like. That's what I would. That first West Ham goal when it's pinging around everywhere. That just screams Man United.
Do you remember when we played Leverkusen and they played a similar formation? And he said, "I played Diaz because I thought their big Grock defender Tar would want to be up against the more physical player. If it's going to be Maguire, Yoro, Martinez, or De Ligt, 3 of those 4." I reckon the last thing any of those will be Luis Diaz. I think they'd all be comfortable getting into a physical battle. I think it makes sense. And also, they fucking battered West Ham doing it. And there's a game in midweek where you can play Jota and Núñez if you want to as well, or do what you want with them. It feels like if it's not broke, don't fix it. They're in the best form. They all score goals. They're all assisting goals. Why change it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I completely agree. I think that's the way we start with it. I don't want to just win. I want to absolutely smash them, and I think that having those 3 up front is the way to do it. And you say the similar situation to West Ham, we take off Diaz and Jota comes on. Jota's been good when he's been coming on. He's been scoring. So I honestly don't see much of a world where Núñez gets a touch in this game. I think it might be similar to West Ham where he actually doesn't make an appearance. I think Jota will be the sub later on, but Diaz, Gakpo, Salah, just all 3 of them, tear them apart.
Absolutely. You could see obviously a Núñez, Jota thing. They could do something against Spurs. Accrington's there for somebody if they want to try and boost someone's numbers up as well, and that's always there as an option for game time. The other option, I suppose, is like we're in that good a position now, John, where like Liverpool, again, with just touch of wood, provided nothing happens today, and Arne Slot was keen to reference that. He said, there's been a little bit of illness knocking around. I've got a little bit of it myself, so hopefully it is definitely sweeping around the city a little bit. He only hasn't got Joe Gomez. He's actually got decisions to make about who gets on his bench. Like that's how strong Liverpool's squad is at the moment in time. Like he's got real decisions to make. Like Chiesa hasn't even been on his bench because they've been working on his fitness. Like they're in a real good place here, Liverpool, where especially because Konate and Bradley are back, he doesn't have to play. He doesn't have to have a youngster on his bench anymore. Now really got an inexperienced player. We're in such a good place here. Someone's not a first team player, maybe a Chiesa, maybe I don't know. Somebody isn't even going to be on the bench. That's where we're at now. Liverpool are in a pretty good place squad wise.
Yeah, I mean, again, testament to the manager and his staff in terms of getting people to where they need to be. But I also just think how he's managed the squad as well. He's been really good. I think it's sort of rotating people in and out, and and obviously some of it was to do with suspensions and the like as well. But like, I thought McAllister coming back off the back of a week off looked incredibly fresh, and being able to do that. It's probably the thing I was going to say that we've struggled with, but I think every team at the top has sort of struggled with. You certainly look at City's problems at the minute. That's a lot of that's come from overplaying players, but he's managed that and threaded that needle so well. And as you say, it's the quality. I think like if you go back 12 months and sort of look at the end of Klopp, as great as the squad was and sort of everything we did, I don't think people were sort of lauding the quality we had, apart from maybe the forwards. They were looking and going, Liverpool have got 6 forwards. But when you look at it now, and in terms of like how he's brought players like Gravenberch on in midfield, obviously another season further on for Jones and that as well, it's like there's not many holes in this squad really. I think weirdly we're in a position where possibly like you're looking at both the left backs and going both sort of 7 out of 10, which isn't bad, but just like that's where I'd improve. But I can't really pick a hole in the squad. And even as you say, once you drop past that a bit, say there is a knock. Some of the lads who are coming on, I thought Endo has looked all right in the games he's had.
Tyler Morton.
There's just quality and just sort of like talent throughout the team. So it's really good. I think the only interesting thing for me will be sort of where he does pick his moments. Maybe sort of going the other way. where does he start getting some of these lads minutes? Because at some point you might need a Chiesa, even just to rotate someone out. So how'd you get him up to speed?
I suppose Accrington, maybe 2 Champions League games that Liverpool have earned the right to do what they want in. There are games coming up that he's definitely going to get these players involved in. Right then, we've been through it all and we've said it all. The only thing that can kill you is overconfidence. And I think the only way Man United beat Liverpool is something mad happens, a red card, an injury or something, or Liverpool just overcomplicating, like 34 shots and don't score like they did last year. A bit of overconfidence. We're allowed to be overconfident, we're not playing, so we can do that. We are just going to beat them, aren't we, Lou?
Oh, yeah. It's not, see, I say this now, but like, no, we're going to beat them. It's just I want it to be convincing. I want this United side at the moment, the way they're struggling, the way everything's gone, all that hate for years and years and years, just throw it at them. Just absolutely get them to the point where they don't want to get out of bed. Just thrash them. That's all I want.
Prediction?
I say 5-1.
I said 4-1.
Ooh.
Yeah, I did say 4-1.
Yeah.
That one even might be in doubt, but
that's what I mean.
I
said a penalty or something.
I said 4-1 because we have conceded a few recently, I suppose.
I really like in my heart want to go bold, but like
7.
I can feel Chloe on my shoulder saying say 8-0. But I think 3-0. I think, which maybe is more damning. I think, and then I think we'll probably score a couple quite early. Maybe get one late first half, early second half.
Take the piss.
And we'll just put our hand on the edge like the little kid and just sort of say you stay in there for 30 minutes and
I would agree. Which I tell Mo Salah
what I would take is long sweeping camera, and if anyone from Sky's watching, by all means, long sweeping shots of the Annie Road as their fans stream out to 4 or 5-0 50 minutes in.
That would be nice.
Solskjaer game and all that.
That would be absolutely fantastic. But yeah, like I say, we're allowed to be overconfident. It's that as long as the players are on it. And listen, this team so far have lost like 1 game in like 20 odd games. They are doing anything but being overconfident. So we can hopefully trust them to get the job done. And in terms of watch along this weekend, please do come and join us. You've got me, Jamie and Errol this weekend. Sorry, me, Jamie and Dan. I do apologise. Errol's going to match, I think. So you got me, Jamie and Dan in the studio. We'll be live an hour and 20 minutes before kickoff, which is around about 3:10. Do come and join us for that one. Hopefully it's another special one. I've done 7-0s. I've done 5s. Hopefully we can be on for another one at this weekend. Thanks very much to John. Thanks to Lewis. Thanks for Adam for producing. And thanks for all you guys for watching or listening. Catch you on Sunday.